Love you, Linda. Love you.
The courthouse the other day in the hallway, you're singing "Oh Happy Day."
One word prayer. Justice, where are you?
And welcome back to Justice Serve TV. I feel like I was just here a minute ago.
It's been a long day.
It has been an interesting day. And now we can express further dismay and outrage as the latest change in the Diddy case has come down. What a roller coaster day for anybody following this case and the defendant and the
attorneys.
Minutes ago, Diddy denied bail on the only charge that he's been convicted of, which is 2 counts of the Mann Act, which we have an issue with because, is prostitution really a crime? Anyway.
And as is pointed out in the memo, most states don't even charge it. New York won't even charge it if it's an adult. If it's adult, crossing state lines and everything, they're not even charging it anymore because times have changed since 1906.
No, 1910. Come on.
Oh, 1910. I'm
sorry. It's going to be on the final. So
yeah, it's going to be right. That's when the Mann Act was enacted, by the way. The Mann Act was 1910. Let's see, 2010, 115 years ago.
I remember it like it was yesterday. I was there. I was talking to Congressman Mann about it. So it was intended to protect victims, generally underaged people, underaged victims. And it's just been used and kind of bastardized here because they thought they could use it. As it turns out, as I predicted last night, it was the one thing that he would be convicted of, and he was 2 times. So now the question
not that we thought that the Mann Act is an appropriate charge for anyone these days if it's consenting adults, but that's
logical application as they were using it as a weapon against him. Yes, doesn't change our underlying opinion that it's inappropriate here. But anyway, so the question then becomes, for bail purposes, is that enough to deny bail? The judge focusing on violent history, specifically the 2024 Jane Doe incident. He even referenced going back to the 2016 Cassandra incident, even though that was not the subject of an individual charge. It was allegedly part of a predicate act, and said it wasn't even a fleeing issue, which I thought might be a better argument because the guy's got the means. It was all about this violence, and the prosecution said the Mann Act, violations of the Mann Act generally require detaining the defendant. I got to see that case law.
I really do. But by the way, just so we get the history, after this, with the guilty verdict, it was announced the judge wanted on the 2, but they're not guilty on the biggies, right? The judge wanted briefing, basically, letters. And he actually also took letters for Cassie Ventura's lawyers, right? Doug Wigdor filed a letter. And he took letters from, obviously, the defense attorneys, right? And they say the defense attorneys said that, after almost a year in detention, Mr. Combs finally got his day in court. The allegations were tested before a jury of his peers, and they heard the government's evidence from his former girlfriends, and by the resoundingly rejected the government's depiction of Mr. Combs here. I mean, that's true. That's all true. The government was an embarrassment with his all the money, right?
And it turns out the defense's statements in their closing come back to bite them in the ass. Attorney Agnifilo said in the closing,
Agnifilo,
that there was admittedly domestic violence. He basically said so, and the court grasped that and said, "See, you even admitted in your closing." And that kind of violence leads me to detain this guy under his convictions for the Mann Act. I just think it's wrong.
The Mann Act, though, is my understanding is it's a 5-year statute of limitations, and the way they got as a standalone here was because of the RICO. If that's the case, then there's a big issue on appeal. And I don't know the issue well enough to say that's true or not, by the way.
Well, under the code, it's a 10-year max.
But a 5-year statute, right? Of limitations. That's what I'm talking about. A look back is 5 years if you do it as a standalone. And if that's the case, how can he be convicted of the Mann Act and it holds up on appeal?
Yeah, you would think that just on its face, it's a violation of the statute of limitations. I can't imagine that wasn't thought about, kicked around, fought over before trial.
I agree.
So I think the prosecution won that battle whenever it took place. So I think that's moot, but it is interesting. And so now They've got the dates all set up. They wanted October sentencing, which means, of course, under this ruling, Sean Combs in jail, continuing what is now a 10-month occupancy, continuing till October. There's been some discussion. Maybe they'll do something earlier. I think there's going to be a hearing on the 8th in the afternoon. And it sounds like defense was saying, Your Honor, if we had a little more time, we could have brought you a better prepared argument about the case law on the Mann Act violations and the propriety of having the defendant detained awaiting sentence.
Right.
So I think that's what it sounds like the July 8th, it's in the afternoon of July 8th. The court wants, some letters and some sort of a pseudo brief.
Yeah. Well, here's the problem I saw. The court relied on the fact that the pretrial findings with the court, Justice Marini said the pretrial findings that I incarcerated without bail for was because he had the domestic violence. And I'm relying on those. Even though the jury said, what? No. I mean, what were the allegations of the RICO Act? Let's see. Acts involving kidnapping, not proved. So that's not proved. That would have been violence, obviously. Acts involving arson, not proved. That would have been violence.
Yeah, that was. I mean, one of those. I know there were even more that they dismissed prior to the verdict.
Yeah, bribery, witness tampering, forced labor, sex trafficking, transportation for purposes of prostitution, and drug distribution. So, the two acts involving kidnapping and arson, it was reported that those have been pulled back. It was just the attempted kidnapping, attempted arson was pulled back. So those two violent acts had to be found not proven because they're part of the racketeering conspiracy that was not proven.
Yeah. So, it makes you just wonder, what's the motivation of this judge? Who's he bending over for? And what's his long-term plan? Is this good news in a weird way for Sean Combs that it indicates he's protecting the guy short of sentencing, or is it just an indication that he's going to lower the boom at the time of sentencing?
This is a lower the boom, Michael. This is no doubt in my mind. This is a lower the boom, and the defense is going to have to they're going to have to go back and really do a good argument. Now, on the flip side of that, if he does 10 and 10 and doesn't stack them, runs them concurrent, assuming that it's like a 7-year presumption, he still may, he may even get 4 years, and he could be out in 4 years. He was facing life imprisonment. So, I mean, he's already done a year. So,
he's by the time
about 6 years.
Yeah. I mean, not exactly a holiday,
right?
But better than life. And I saw a chat note from Joey Kane go by. Joey, you are as sick as I am. Joey said, "Good news for oil sales, baby oil sales." Yes. I agree.
Johnson's baby oil in New Jersey got Johnson & Johnson got more publicity and more press. I'm not sure it's the press they wanted, but they certainly got publicity and press. Sandra Kiss says, this is to you, Michael, I'm sure. Grew up on San Francisco Peninsula in 1983, 1990.
Gosh, let me think.
Radio is your
voice, let me tell you, go back to 19.
I could not tell you. I mean, I was in the area. I was doing stuff. That's about all I can tell you.
He does do voiceovers and he does do movies, and Michael Bryan does have a very distinct voice. I mean, I had to try to.
For better or worse. I did a fun NBA championship commercial for Michelob beer, which was kind of cool. But anyway.
Wow. Wait. Say that again. You did what?
What they did was they wanted to recreate moments from past championships, because the NBA championship just ended last week. And so they took, like, people who know the NBA and know sports announcers know Chick Hearn, right? He did LA Lakers forever. Marv Albert, even with his interesting history with women's underwear,
he wouldn't get bail from Judge Subterranean.
Yeah. Yes. So they can't. First of all, Chick Hearn's dead, and they don't want to pay the rights for these recorded. There's simple things like a play-by-play moment, right? So they send those and they say, "Do your version of that." And then they pay you for doing your version of that, because paying me to do it is much cheaper than paying Marv Albert or somebody else. So they're fun, fun commercials. So if you see a Michelob Ultra commercial or two that centers around the NBA, I'm in there somewhere. Anyway.
That's fabulous. Oh, by the way, Prince Lover just finished Linda's rant. I'm in such a good mood now. Thank you very much. In case you missed it at 4:00, we did release a rant about somebody who emailed me questioning both my ethics and suggesting that my husband is bought for money. Oh yeah, Michael really needs to be bought for money. And I really need to. I have my own career, as my point. I make my own money. In case you don't follow me, that's
don't you just get an allowance from Dr. Bodden?
Oh yeah,
I just get an allowance.
Just get my little allowance.
Here you go.
Because I'm back in 1910 with the
Don't
Mann
spend us all in one
Act.
place. Here's some mad money for you.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
You gotta love the trolls. They give us so much ammunition to deal with them with our words, don't they?
Yeah.
So
anyway, back to Diddy, and I suggested last night 3 to 4 years. I think you're kind of in lockstep with that. If that would be actual served, but that would be based on a higher sentence. And what feds do, like 85% normally, right? 85% of the served of the penalty.
Right.
So 8.5 years on to 10, etc. So I don't know. Because of this denial of bail, I think it makes things a little more interesting when it comes to sentencing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Because I assumed that he would get out, get house arrest. He's already done a year. The big ones have been gone. You know, they went away. The Mann Act ones are just interstate for having sex. They didn't. These two charges didn't involve violence, from what I read and what I heard. But you're right that the judge used the defense's words. See, words matter, don't they?
Yep, and turned it on them. Just little did they know. I mean, I have a feeling that after the verdicts were read and everybody was so excited, everybody on the defense side, that this came as a very big shock, you know. And I hear from those in the courtroom that, you know, Diddy's demeanor, Sean Combs' demeanor, immediately. You know.
Well, that's what I wanted to know. What was his demeanor? What was his family's demeanor? What were the attorney's demeanor when the judge said this?
Yeah, all I'm reading is that you know, he basically just lowered his head, put his hands in his lap, and it was, you know, kind of, you probably see and hear the wheels turning there, because I'm assuming he sat down there before this 5 o'clock hearing and thought, I'm going home.
Right.
I'm going. And now he hears, not only are you not going home, you're here till October, and then after that, who knows? You may never go home, or at least not within the next few years.
Right.
So yeah,
it's huge, and I know that a lot of our friends were in the courtroom. Let me look on Inner City Press, because he was in the courtroom the whole time. Also, let's see what he's saying, and I'm going to tell you, he's on. He covers all New York cases. He's really just fabulous.
Yeah, I bumped into him at the Daniel Penny trial. So he's all over the place. I want to confirm what's going on the 8th. Which I believe is next Tuesday. Is that correct? Is that right? Yeah, next Tuesday.
Yeah,
I'll be coming back from Dedham on Monday, but I might have to pop down there for this hearing. Which my interpretation is that it's going to be further argument on the bail issue.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, Inner City Press says Combs' attorney Agnifilo, we could craft conditions. Would the court be open to us putting together a bail package? I'm happy to do so. Judge, the bail application is denied. We'll receive hopefully a joint proposal on expedited sentencing on Tuesday and a hearing at 2 p.m. So it doesn't look like the judge next Tuesday wants to have any new bail applications. He wants a joint proposal on sentencing.
Yeah, because there was a request for that to move it from October to sometime sooner.
Yeah.
But and if he's got his neck bowed on denial of bail and doesn't want to hear more about it, it's not a good sign.
Yeah, and think about this. At 10:38, after the verdict was announced, the judge left the courtroom. The gallery started to loudly clap and cheer. Okay, loudly clap and cheer. Okay. So it'd be interesting if one of the jurors starts to speak, okay, about this, because now the jurors can speak, right? They can watch, they can say, hey, wait a second, you know, or maybe the jurors will come out and say, yeah, we think he should do some time. It'd be kind of interesting to see what the jurors are going to say, because you know that by the time, let's see, we finish our show tonight, I assume somebody will be speaking. Yeah,
well, how quickly were they out there after the Karen Reed case? You know, the ink was barely dry on the verdict slip.
Exactly.
So I would not be surprised to see somebody out there today, tonight, tomorrow at the latest. And I wouldn't be surprised to hear from them that there were certain people felt he needed to be punished in some way, and we came up with the way it should be done. You know.
All right, we have a follow, Stanley Roper's parakeet. I'm hoping to be at Aiden's hearing in Dedham on Monday. Oh wow,
great.
Michael will be there.
Okay. Come up, say hi.
Yeah,
Stanley Roper's parakeet. I'm not sure I'll recognize you.
Where is Joanna? We haven't seen Joanna since last week. Well, the other night, maybe. All my weeks and my nights are like running in together. I don't know I don't know about you, but we have been on the air so much. I mean, today was actually a day that we planned to pre-record something and run it today. Instead, we've been on the air all day, so we will have a show that will premiere tomorrow night. I don't know if it's going to be a premiere or just going to.
No, I think it is set to just roll out at 6 o'clock. And again, it's kind of a look behind the scenes at those who are surviving post Karen Reed in the context of the Canton Select Board meetings. Gives you a real taste of what those folks live with there, and that they're not too comfortable with. That some folks are downright afraid.
Yeah, afraid. Really, you made me watch it in preparation for us taping our show and rolling it out tomorrow night, and I had to watch it in shock. Shock of what I listened to. So just because a show may be pre-recorded, you won't want to miss this. This is quite frankly one of the better shows that we've done and listened to in terms of what's out there and who's speaking and how they are fearful. All right, you have to listen to it, especially if you're going to listen to Aiden's hearing live on Monday.
Yeah, it all kind of overlaps in the Birchmore situation, and we're reaching out to one of the folks. One of them that appeared, we've had on a few times, Christine Anderson, right?
Right.
And she's our bus driver. That's been accosted a couple of times by the Massachusetts PD or state police, but also this new name that she's never spoken up. But when you hear what she has to say, it is gut wrenching.
Right. I wanted to cry.
She's never spoken up before. She'd had enough. So we're reaching out. We're trying to see if she'll. I could tell she is not enjoying the experience, but felt it had to be done. So we certainly want to give her a forum if she's willing to talk more about it.
You all have to really watch this because, again, I watched it in preparation for us, Michael, Bryan, and I taping the show. I really wanted to cry when I heard this woman, and you'll know who it is. So I'm just warning you, if you care about what's going on post Karen Reed in Dedham, which I know you all do, in Canton, in Stoughton, you have to listen to the select board meeting and these people talk. It is going to just wrench your heart out of your chest.
Yep. So
with that upper,
we have the Bryan Kohberger situation, which we can transition to now, and we were covering this, of course, live today. For those who missed it, obviously he pled guilty to all 5 charges against him: burglary, 4 counts of first-degree murder, and people wanted to hear. Well, they really wanted to hear why. Right. That was not answered.
I wanted to hear why. That's the first thing I wrote down. I wrote down here why.
Because that's
and then I wrote who was targeted and where is the knife. And then the 4th thing I wrote down was the collateral damage to Zana and Ethan. But the questions I had were the first 3: why, who was targeted, and where is the knife. Oops,
yeah. So we learned a lot more about
computer accident.
We learned a lot more about what happened. But almost like in a trial, motive is irrelevant. We didn't hear the why, and we aren't going to. I don't expect we're ever going to hear the why. But we did learn who he attacked first and who was actually seemingly collateral damage, right? Mm-hmm. So I thought what we would do, for those who may have missed it, I think it's best to just play this out. It's basically the prosecution giving us the facts as they believed they had them to share and would have presented at the time of trial. So let me find this for you here. We'll let this play out. It's about 10 minutes or so, and then we also will hear Bryan Kohberger say the magic words, guilty, 5 times. He had said yes a lot of times prior.
Right.
When the court was asking him.
Just so you know, because people are complaining, why didn't he allocate? Because I said last night on a show I did that he wasn't going to allocate. He was going to say guilty. The prosecution was going to do the allocation. But let me tell you, there's a whole theory in prosecutions that you don't give somebody who is especially a mass murderer the ability to say it out of his words, because maybe that's what they want, okay? And also you want to make sure it goes very smoothly and he agrees to everything, and everything that has been set out and negotiated between the prosecution and defense has been put on paper. But there is a theory that I know a lot of you just wanted to hear him to say what he did, but him saying what he did may mean that he gets the upper, like, look what I was able to say in front of all these people on the TV star. So just think about that when you hear the prosecutor.
And listen to Kohberger's tone and demeanor. What all he's doing is saying, guilty. But there's a certain way about it that doesn't sound very guilty, if you know what I mean. Okay, here we go. Let's listen to this. Let me get this organized here. Oh, this one, I'm sorry. We also have, I'm going giving you a sneak preview. This is actually the Madison Mogan family through their attorney responding. I don't want to get to that till we do the in-court stuff, so stand by here just a second. Let me bring that back up. And they, you can see the family. We'll see that soon enough. The family's behind the attorney, and they're just wrung out. They're just, it just looks like everything's been zapped out of them. So, okay, Bryan Kohberger, here we go. I think this would be the right one. Hey, I had a 50-50 chance. There we go.
I think it was mentioned on the call Monday afternoon that the defense wishes to waive a pretrial investigation. Is that accurate?
Yes, Your Honor.
The state also?
Yes, Your Honor. The state does not believe pre-sentence investigation is needed given the evidence that is available. We want to, though, make sure that all of the victims have the opportunity to make statements to the court at sentencing.
Absolutely. And
that, let me interrupt for a second while I'm queuing this up here. That was a concern a lot of folks had. What? No victim impact statements? Obviously, that normally occurs at the time of sentencing.
Right. And the fact that there's no pretrial probation investigation is because the defense has already given their mitigation package over to the prosecution.
Yeah. So
intersection of King and Queen Road.
Right. It's odd because this was a live feed, obviously, and so the time clock is backwards. So bear with me as I go back in time.
And this, by the way, was from the court's YouTube channel, the court feed, the court timer. That's why you're not getting
shortly prior to the purchase of the knife.
Yeah, you can see. I mean, it's fuzzy at best. We opted to go with one of the feeds that at least gave us the single camera shot at a time. Otherwise, we would be seeing 3 of them on here, right, which is brutal. Okay, hold on here. 142. Okay, I believe it's right about here.
The state's evidence, as an overview, would show that back in March of 2022, when the defendant was residing at his parents' residence or was residing back in Pennsylvania, his home state, he purchased online a K-bar knife and sheath with an Amazon gift card that he had purchased shortly prior to the purchase of the knife, sheath, and sharpener. Jumping ahead, the end of June of that year, the defendant, Mr. Kohberger, moved from Pennsylvania to Pullman, Washington, which is right across the state line from Moscow, Idaho, for the purpose of pursuing a PhD in criminal justice at Washington State University. The state's evidence would indicate that beginning July 9th of 2022, Mr. Kohberger's phone began connecting to a cell tower that serves the area of the 1122 King Road residence in Moscow, Idaho. Now, I will acknowledge for the court and all present that there are many residences in that area. It's a dense population of mostly college-related occupants. Between July 9th of 2022 and November 7th, the defendant's phone connected to that particular tower during late night, early morning hours, 10 p.m. to 4 a.m., on approximately 23 times. Now, I will acknowledge also, we do not have evidence that the defendant had direct contact with 1122 or with residents of 1122, but we can put his phone in that area on those times. In the interim, on August 22nd of 2022, Lake Tahoe County Sheriff's Deputy Darren Duke conducted a traffic stop in the early morning hour or late evening hours, about 11 p.m. On the west side of Moscow, on the Moscow-Pullman Road. This was the traffic stop of Mr. Kohberger's car, which turned out to be a 2015 white Hyundai Elantra with Pennsylvania plates. During the course of the traffic stop, Deputy Duke was able to obtain Mr. Kohberger's name, Bryan Kohberger, his phone number, and his address, which at that point was an apartment address in Pullman. We then move to the early morning hours of November 13th, 2022. The state's evidence would show that early morning hours on that day, Mr. Kohberger's phone left his Pullman residence, which is an apartment in kind of the central northwest part of Pullman, That phone was then subsequently turned off at approximately 2:54 a.m. and remained off until approximately 4:48 a.m. on
Michael, can we
Sunday,
just
the
stop it right
13th of
there?
November. On Sunday.
Yes.
What you're hearing in that's the court echo, by the way. That's on pretty much all the feeds, unless they were trying to get it out. That'll eventually go away, but that's the court echo, whether or not somebody's watching in the court from YouTube or
not
they were
muted
whatever,
or something.
or not muted, but it's not us.
Yes.
The state's evidence would include a trial, video surveillance of a business on the Moscow-Pullman Highway, just across the state line from Moscow. It would show a vehicle matching the description of the defendant's Hyundai Elantra entering Moscow at approximately 3:02 a.m. Compiled surveillance that the investigators put together from businesses and residents then show the defendant's car, the white Elantra, as I've described, circling the 1122 King Road area, that neighborhood, starting around 3:30 or so in the morning. Comes into the immediate area of 1122 King Road, which is actually on a dead end, and then leaves several times. And approximately 4:05 that morning, the defense car had entered that area, was leaving, stopped at the intersection of King and Queen Road, did a U-turn, and the state's evidence would show that the defendant's car came back and parked behind and above the 1122 King Road residence. The state believes that its evidence would then show that the defendant entered the residence of 1122 through the kitchen sliding door on the back side of the residence, which is the side of the residence that would face the area above where the defendant's car was parked. Defendant entered the residence, went to the third floor, and with a knife, killed Madison Mogan and Kayla Goncalves. The defendant, as he left that room, for whatever reason, ended up leaving, or the sheath for a K-bar knife was left on the bed next to Madison Mogan's body. And I can jump ahead. That sheath was tested by the Idaho State Police Forensic Lab, and single source male DNA was found on the snap of that sheath, as well as blood from both Kaylee and Madison and other trace evidence. But it's important to note single source male DNA was on the snap of that sheath. The state's evidence would show that Xana Knodel was still awake at this time. In fact, had taken a DoorDash order not long before this started. Her room was not on the third floor. It was on the second floor on the west side. As the defendant was either coming down the stairs or leaving, he encountered Xana, and he ended up killing her, also with a large knife. Ethan Chapin, Xana's boyfriend, was asleep in their bedroom, in her bedroom, and the defendant killed him as well with a large fixed blade knife. Each victim suffered multiple wounds. I will state for the record that there is no evidence there was any sexual component or sexual assault on any of the victims. I want to make that clear so there's no speculation. There were two other roommates in the house, and they were already asleep. During the course of this, one of those roommates awoke, looked out her door not knowing what was going on, and saw the defendant, who was dressed in black with black balaclava on, holding some sort of container in his hand. And she saw him leave the house through the direction of the kitchen where that sliding door is that I mentioned before. At approximately 4:20 that morning, so this would have been 15 minutes or so later, the defendant's car is seen on a surveillance camera for 1112 King Road, which is immediately next door to the west of 1122, leaving the area at a high rate of speed. And if the court were to see that, or anybody in this courtroom would see that, you can see the car almost loses control as it makes the corner, heads north, and then turns to go south on Walenta, which is one of the only ways to get out of that part of town. The evidence would show that following that, the defendant in his Elantra drove south of Moscow. We know that he drove on the back roads because there are surveillance cameras on the main highways, Highway 95, that would have picked up the defendant's car if he'd gone that route. And they did not show the defendant's car on that route during the time. So we know that he went through a variety of back roads in very rural, isolated part of Latah County. About 4:48 that morning, the defendant's phone comes back on. And the evidence will show that that phone was located south of Moscow, likely at a side road intersection with Highway 95. From there, the defendant's phone activity tracks heading back north towards Pullman, Washington, where the defendant lived. About 5:26, starting approximately 5:26, various surveillance cameras in Pullman, Washington pick up the defendant's vehicle as he enters Pullman from the south and heads north and slightly west towards his apartment, where he arrived at approximately 5:30 in the morning. Later that morning, Sunday, the 13th of November of 2022, Mr. Kohberger's phone returned to the area of King Road. We don't know exactly what he did, but it returned to that area. It's about 9 o'clock in the morning. It was there for about 10 minutes and then returned to his Pullman residence. About 9:30, the state's evidence will show, evidence taken from the defendant's phone, that he took a selfie of himself on his phone in what appears to be the bathroom of his Pullman apartment with a thumbs up. The defendant's phone then went to the Lewiston-Clarkston Valley, approximately 30 miles south of Moscow and Pullman. And the defendant is actually seen with his car at various businesses down there. This area is the confluence of the Clearwater River and the Snake River. Lewiston is Idaho's seaport. Large bodies of moving water down there. In addition to tracing the defendant's activities, as I've just outlined on the 13th and leading up to the 13th, the state's evidence will show that following Sunday, November 13th of 2022, business records show that the defendant began searching for a K-bar knife and a K-bar knife sheath, as the state believes, to replace the one that was left at the scene of the murders. The evidence also will suggest that there were at least attempts by the defendant to delete or alter his purchase history on Amazon, where all these transactions had occurred. Later that week, the state's evidence will show that Mr. Kohberger went to what we would call DMV, motor vehicle licensing here in Idaho, in Pullman, to change his car registration from Pennsylvania to Washington. That's of note because Pennsylvania cars do not require a front license plate. The vehicles seen on the surveillance cameras of the defendant's car showed it didn't have a front license plate on it. At the time of the traffic stop by Deputy Duke in August, it was Pennsylvania plate, no front license plate. Mr. Kohberger proceeded to finish his semester of studies at Washington State University and returned to Pennsylvania for the holidays. Law enforcement at this point were aware of Mr. Kohberger, had been accessing information about him, were trying to find him. They located him in Pennsylvania, and they conducted what's called a trash pull. During the nighttime hours, agents of the FBI, who assisted immensely with this case, working with the sanitation department back in this neighborhood in Pennsylvania, took trash that had been set out on the street for collection, sent the contents of that from the Pennsylvania residence of the defendant's parents to the Idaho State Forensic Laboratory, where the lab experts there were able to identify DNA on a Q-tip as coming from the father of the person whose DNA was found on the knife sheath that was next to Madison Logan's body in the bed. Subsequently, an arrest warrant was issued here in Idaho, and a search warrant was issued in the state of Pennsylvania with the assistance not only of the FBI, but the Pennsylvania State Police. Mr. Kohberger was arrested at his parents' home to return to Idaho. Upon his return to Idaho, a DNA sample was taken from him, and it matched the DNA found on the knife sheath next to Maddie's body at the crime scene. I can tell the court and the public the weapon itself, the knife, has not yet been recovered. I can tell the court that the defendant's apartment in Pullman was searched, as well as his office. Spartan would be a kind characterization. There was virtually nothing there. Nothing of evidentiary value was found. And of course, we are now talking 6-8 weeks after the time of the killings. In Pennsylvania, the defendant's car was seized, and it was actually pretty much disassembled internally. And it also had been cleaned. There was a bucket of cleaner right beside it. I think we can all look to our own cars, you know, in those compartments in the doors. You can try to keep them clean where you put stuff. There's always some degree of crud in there. They were spotless. The defendant's car had been meticulously cleaned inside. And the state would present to the jury that that was part of the defendant's plan in covering up this. The defendant has studied crime. In fact, he did a detailed paper on crime scene processing when he was working on his pre-doctorate degrees, and he had that knowledge and skill. So, Your Honor, at the end, the state submits that the evidence that I've given just a quick overview of, and that to present in court would consume weeks, which the state is prepared to do and has been prepared to do, would show that as the defendant has just admitted and pleaded guilty on November 13th, 2022, excuse me, Mr. Kohberger entered the residence of 1122 King Road in Moscow, Idaho. He did that with the intent to kill. We will not represent that he intended to commit all of the murders that he did that night, but we know that that is what resulted, and that he then killed intentionally, willfully, deliberately, with premeditation, and with malice forethought, Maddie Mogen, Kaylee Goncalves, Ethan Chapin, and Santa Colonel. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, wow.
Okay, before we continue on
Yeah.
with this, which is basically the plea and
Well,
recitation of guilty. Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, Bill Thompson is a seasoned prosecutor. I mean, just the pure emotion just from reading that, and you know, some of the parents were in the courtroom. Some of the family members, Mr. Goncalves was not in the courtroom. The parents of it had been reported before. Mike Ruiz of Fox News, who we do a lot of interviewing with, said that the parents of Bryan Kohberger were in the courtroom, and Kohberger didn't look at them once. But this whole idea is just, but all this evidence we're hearing, I will tell you, Michael Bryant, and I'll announce it to everyone now, we do have somebody who's in our chat. I don't know if he wants to be identified, but it's going to be doing FOIA requests for Justice Serve TV to try to get some of the information, the new documents and videos that were announced today. So, but boy.
Yeah, and it's interesting. Bill Thompson, who we just heard from, you know, he's from Latah County. That's where Moscow is. And even though the venue moved to Ada County, Boise, the team went with. And he's gotten fried by, you know, there are two of the families that are in support of the deal, two that are not. We're going to cover both after we hear the plea. But he was just ripped, as they said in the Karen Reed case, a new one.
And he also
he just caved in.
He caved in. They also kind of answered, you know, I said, who was the target? It sounds to me like Madison Mogen was the target because he keeps naming her first, right? The sheath was found under her. And answers some of the questions about how the cell phone towers are so important. You know, the 405 to 420, indicating that he was in the house probably less than 15 minutes because he had to walk from his car. He parked when we were covering this. Remember back then, everyone thought he parked above there and looked in and came in through the kitchen sliding door, and that's exactly what he did. But there was at least up to 15 minutes of terror in that house. Yeah.
It's just unthinkable. And then, as we now know today, that after he accomplished what apparently was his intended crime or crimes with the first two murders, you know, he committed two more on the way out the door,
which apparently weren't intended. It just happenstance. Xana had been awake because she had gotten a DoorDash order, and then Ethan, I guess he could see him in the bedroom and killed him as he was sleeping. I mean, now remember the picture of the blood coming out the bedroom
down the siding. Yeah. And so it makes you think, and I'm sure these two young ladies who survive are thanking their, you know, whomever they believe in every day, because he brushed past one of them and decided not to kill
because
that person.
that was not on his list. Plus, he was probably rushing out, not knowing that he had left the sheath there, obviously, in his planning that he had done. It's unthinkable. And I'm wondering, I don't know even know whether Kaylee was the Goncalves was she intended, or was she just because she was sleeping in the bed with Maddie?
Yeah, I mean, because we don't know of the connection that
why
maybe somehow motivated. Maybe he was following her at times that's undocumented, you know, and it culminated with his visit that night. We don't know. We may never know.
Yeah, but in the space of all this brutality that we're hearing, we're also hearing a lot of stupidity. He has an Amazon gift certificate. He buys the sheath and the knife, which you bought, but don't show the knife. You know,
I did. In fact, I was looking for it. I can't find it. But you're right. I wanted to kind of just sense the size and
the size of the sheath, because the knife got us a stripe last time.
Yeah,
a ding last time. It's so horrible. But certainly the sheath. He probably goes back to the house to obviously look for it. To me, at 9 o'clock in the morning, maybe he dropped it where he had parked.
Could be.
And then he drives away. Obviously, gets rid of the knife. It's the suggestion is in the moving waters, but we don't know that. Hasn't been recovered. And then he tries to buy a new knife and sheath on Amazon, and then get rid of his purchase history. I mean, come on, are you kidding me?
I know.
I mean, a mastermind criminal to make these killings, and then the stupidity. Oh.
Yeah. Well, you know, he's not a career criminal. He was just, he's a bent dude. He's got issues. He's got problems. So it's not like he was a repeat offender who had come up with some master plan that he repeated over and over and over again.
Yeah, but he was proud of butchering, slaughtering, eviscerating 2 young girls who were just doing nothing to him. I mean, come on. I mean, this is a evil son of a bitch. Okay, let's put it out. I mean, that's about as mild as I can say.
And he's fascinated by the process because he's trying to, you know, in theory, get a degree. Is he really going to try to get a degree, or is he just amassing information that he could use for a crime, which turns out to be this quadruple murder? Who knows? The guy's he's twisted. Yes. Yeah. Okay, let's go back and here again. This is basically his ultimate plea deal, or plea in front of this court and everybody else who was following. Let's see. Here we go.
All right. Based on the state's proffer, and importantly, based upon defendant's explicit admission to committing these crimes, the court finds there is a factual basis. Therefore, with respect to count 1, burglary, felony, how do you plead, Mr. Kohberger, guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.
As to count 2, murder in the first degree, as it relates to the murder of Madison Mogan, how do you plead, guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.
As to count 3, as it relates to murder in the first degree for the murder of Kaylee Goncalves, how do you plead, guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.
As to count 4, the first degree murder of Xana Kernodle, a human being, how do you plead, guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.
As to count 5, the first degree murder of Ethan Chapin, a human being, how do you plead, guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.
Right. The court will find that the defendant understands the nature of the charges and each offense and the possible consequences to him of his guilty plea. The court finds that there is a factual basis for the plea, and that finds the defendant believes the plea to be in his best interest. I find that the plea was given freely, voluntarily, and was intelligently made. I accept the plea. I direct that it be entered. Okay.
All right. So obviously the key for the court is a number of things. Yes, I find there's a factual basis for the plea, and that this defendant entered into it knowingly, willingly, intelligently. That always confuses me when I think of such outrageous acts as being intelligent and how they've been respected. But anyway, that's the process. The court has to do that to protect itself. Even though this defendant has waived any right to appeal, he couldn't come back later and say, "Oh, by the way, it wasn't knowing, voluntary, and intelligently made." That's done.
I will say for those of you who who are wondering about this, because I think almost everyone would have said this is the kind of case that the death penalty was made for. The parents of Madeline Mogen, who apparently appeared to be the main victim, and then the parents of Ethan Chapin, who was collateral damage here, they were for this plea. And I have to tell you that as a mother, I'm torn, okay? I'm torn. Yeah, do I want justice? But by the same token, I don't want my kid's death and their eviscerations and their autopsy photos and everything out there somehow in the public for fodder by people for years. I mean, I just don't. And he in prison, if you all think that the death penalty is off the table, and I'm going to tell you this straight, he will become, how long as it takes, initially he'll be in protective custody, but he will become the stalked. He will no longer be the stalker.
He'll be the Dahmered, could be.
Right. Jeffrey Dahmer, Buddy Bulger, the priest, the pedophile priest in Boston. It happens.
Epstein.
Well, that's a different.
You'll never get me off of that ever.
That's a different thing because absolutely. Epstein. I mean, as you know, my husband was hired by the brother of Jeffrey Epstein to be at the autopsy, and we all know what he thinks. And by the way, the person is wondering what I was talking about, Sheila P. I was talking, I think I was talking about the rant I did earlier that you'll find it under both Justice Serve TV and under my personal webpage, Kenny Baden, KENNEYBADEN on X.
So let's look at, before we get to the Mogen presser, let's take a look at the Goncalves family. They are the folks not happy with what's going on, what has gone on. So this is from their Facebook page. Right here, right now, we dig our heels into the earth and carve a line deep in the dirt. This ain't justice. No judge presided, no jury weighed the truth. Thompson, again, Bill Thompson, robbed us of our day in court. No negotiations, no jury of our peers, not even the pretense of cooperation and fairness. Cowardly men, gutless men, they scatter like roaches when the battle closes in. And Thompson, he's retiring on this deal, his shadow slithering toward the exit, leaving only the stench of his betrayal. No spine, no shred of honor. He didn't have the basic decency, the plain human courage to face families, to meet our eyes and ask, how do we make an offer that works? Instead, Thompson cut his deal with the devil. His negotiation didn't require anything other than a simple guilty plea, allowing him the leeway to blame the same people you're paid to protect. You betrayed us, Thompson. Your deal fails to shield the innocent. You could have stood tall and made damn sure the blame stayed where it belongs, not on us, not on the broken survivors, still carrying the weight of your repeated failures. Moving on here, get to the second page. I mean, this was from the heart, passionate, and I think understood. I think a lot of people would perfectly understand where this is coming from. Let me continue here. It's ugly, it's raw, it's wild, it's anything but easy. Yet you, Mr. Thompson, didn't even bother to negotiate with us. So this is all we have left. There's no more time for us to wait for you to make a stand, so we stand in your place. Kaylee, Jade, Goncalves, we love you, baby. You deserve better than this justice system. Your soul is not a Thompson bargaining chip. We do not accept his plea deals signed in your name. We're screaming for you as loud as we can. Kaylee Jade is better than this. This is our last shot, Judge Hippler. You are our only hope that our child murder isn't granted control over his destiny in our children's names. You take control of this deal and make it right because now you own it. Now, of course, before I move on to the third page, there's very little discretion. The court can't do much of anything. Now that the court's accepted the plea, there was a very, infinitesimal, remote possibility that the court could have rejected the plea, but that was not going to happen. And so in this particular case, everything the judge has to do is really administrative. He's going to have a sentencing that's coming up on the 23rd.
He made it very clear, by the way, a couple of things. He made it very clear when he entered the courtroom. He did not appreciate it. He's actually referred things to law enforcement because he must have gotten death threats here on taking this plea, and that's also no way to act. Okay.
Of course. I mean, I understand the frustration and the passion and having to vent but you got to focus it in the right place. And in fact, the court said, don't talk to me. Don't bug me. Go to the prosecution if you got a problem with this.
Right.
This is our courtroom now, this moment, this stand. Our voices rise to every American who will listen. We would have provided protection for the roommates, the best friends, the fallen vet, God rest his soul, and every soul affected in our shattered community. We would have carved our terms like sacred commandments, etched deep into unyielding granite, a testament to those we've lost and the justice they're owed. First, truth, spill it. BK, the defendant, every sickening detail only the killer would know, the kind that twists your guts just to hear, but turns even a simpleton Kohberger against you. Second, you bear the guilt, all of it alone. You don't get to smear the survivors, the ones still waking to nightmares born of your reckless choices. Third, no cashing in on our grief, no books, no private interviews with your ex-professor. No one is allowed to study you because you're not special. You don't get to spit on our kids' graves by making this all about you. Only Hitler can step into this void, mend the wreckage Thompson left in Latah's so-called justice system. This is what murder victims' families' negotiation looks like. So,
by the way, the defense did offer the plea and the prosecution accepted it. It wasn't the reverse way. But, usually, having been in this situation, what the prosecution may say to you, look, if you come back to us, we're not offering this, but if you come back to us saying you will accept life imprisonment, no, nothing else, that's it, no appeals, no nothing, we'll consider it. I mean, there's a way of doing things that lawyers do things without saying exactly what they mean. And remember, also, the prosecution may know something. I don't know about the young woman who saw him leaving. Remember, she was traumatized. And people were suggesting, oh, she's on drugs, she's this, she's that. She didn't really see him. Of course, she saw exactly who she saw, and she actually had a photograph or a picture drawn of him, a police drawing of him with the bushy eyebrows. It sounded like the fugitive in a way, and all. But you don't know where she is in her mental health state, and all the people that have to testify, all these young kids that saw the bodies and the blood and the gore. I mean, let's not romanticize what's going to be here. And even if he did get the death penalty, it would be years. Most people in the death penalty die of old age before he'd hit that firing squad. So there's trade-offs here. There's trade-offs with regard to what happens.
And so that explains, why there's such a divide between family members, those who are accepting this, ready to move forward, and those that will never accept it. So this is the Madison Mogen family, their attorney who spoke for them. Again, they are stacked up behind him. I suggest you look at their faces and their demeanor, because it tells you as much, if not more, about what's going on with them than the statement does.
Good afternoon. I'm Leander James from the law firm of James, Vernon and Weeks in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. I'm a victims' rights attorney. For the past 2 years, I've had the privilege and the honor to provide pro bono representation in this criminal case for Karen Laramie and Scott Laramie, the loving mother and stepfather of Maddie Mogen. I will be reading a statement of gratitude today from the Laramies. 962 days ago, we lost our Maddie, our kind, loving, vivacious, and caring daughter full of purpose and promise. We are grateful for the gift of her life, and we have grieved the loss of that life during each of these 962 days. We love you, Maddie, and we miss you. We are grateful for the gift of the young, vivacious, promising lives of Kaylee, Xana, and Ethan. And we deeply, deeply mourn their senseless loss. We remain in solidarity with their families and friends, and we continue to shower them with our prayers and support. We are grateful for their prayers, love, and support that they have given us. They have helped us and sustained us during our darkest times. We are grateful to the prosecutor, Bill Thompson, and his dedicated and caring team, including victim coordinators, Kim and Stacy, who have helped to guide us through the sometimes confusing and disorienting legal process. Thank you for all your dedicated, diligent, and tireless commitment to justice and the successful outcome reached today. We support the plea agreement 100%. While we know there are some who do not support it, we ask that they respect our belief that this is the best outcome possible for the victims, their families, and the state of Idaho. We extend our deep gratitude to the many law enforcement officers and staff who worked tirelessly to obtain the critical evidence that brought justice today, including the Moscow Police Department, the FBI, the Idaho State Patrol, and the Lehigh County Sheriff's Department. We are deeply grateful to Judge Hippler and Judge John Judge before him. We thank you for your diligence, thoughtfulness, and judicial guidance. We appreciate the difficult work you have done to balance the rights of all involved and to uphold the rule of law. You have had our prayers and support throughout this case. We send our love and gratitude to the many family and friends who have supported us, cared for us, and helped us to heal our open emotional wounds. To the good people of North Idaho, who have showered us with kindness and support, we thank you. We also mourn today with you the recent tragic and senseless loss of two brave North Idaho firefighters.
Wow.
We extend our prayers and support to their families. You are not alone. We understand your pain. For all parents who have endured the loss of a child, we know recovery is a long and at times an almost unbearable journey. But you are not alone. And there is hope and there is healing. We thank those in the press who have respected our privacy and the grieving process and the privacy and grieving process of the families of Kaylee, Xana, and Ethan. To others in the press, we gently encourage you to do the same. We thank the many people across our nation and beyond who have reached out to us, prayed for us, and extended their kindness. You too have helped us on our journey to heal. We now embark on a new path. We turn from tragedy and mourning. We turn from darkness and uncertainty of the legal process to the light of the future. We have closure. We embark on a path of hope and healing. We invite all of those who have mourned with us to join us, and we wish you well. Thank you. I will now share a few words of my own. Over the past 2 years, I've been amazed and humbled by Karen and Scott's strength, endurance, and faith. They have uplifted me and so many. They founded a nonprofit to help others in the name of Maddie. They have been a beacon of hope amidst a dark and tragic time. To those young and bright attorneys out there looking for purpose and meaning in your profession, I invite you to join the effort of crime victim attorneys to bring victims justice with compassion, empathy, humility, and understanding. This case is not the end of violence. This case is not the end of lawlessness. We need your help to bring hope and healing to the innocent caught in the crossfire of life. Thank you all.
Wow, Michael,
Yeah,
wow.
I thought it was important to have that last little bit on there, just for, hold on a second, let me see if I can. Yeah, just because, we as attorneys, of course, we try and share how these things suck us in and become so important to us as well. Obviously, can't feel what the families are feeling, but his explanation, trying to tell people that it's been so powerful in his life as well, and suggesting to others, give this a try. Help victim family members if that's your calling.
Yeah. Before I give you my thoughts on him, I just want to point out Kay Schmidt again donated another 5 Justice Sir TV memberships. Thank you.
Thank you, Kay Schmidt.
So many people in there like it. And again, let me just show this from Fairy Raven. The families are entitled to feel whatever way they want. Unless I'm ever in their shoes, I have no right to an opinion. God bless them. And I think we all echo that. Yep. But I do, I do want to let me show this because I'm going to actually argue with you here, Aaron P. Dr. Catherine Rabson is actually a friend of ours, and I did reach out to her today, and she did an interview last night. She's not doing any more interviews. She doesn't want to do any more interviews. Maybe after the sentencing, she'll do it, but she is not going to do any right now. So she is definitely not, let me put it this way, taking oodles of money. She had just happened to be somebody who taught him. We all could be in that. So I just want to, as you know, on this show, we defend our friends, and she's somebody who I've known for a long time, and I would like to learn from her, and I do learn from her when I read her books. But my point, I want to go back to Michael. If you remember, the indictment, I think, had Kaylee, and you can all check me as being the first victim, but they concentrated on Maddie Mogan here. If Maddie was the target, if maybe the parents know this, maybe the prosecutor knows this and has said that to them, and maybe she was the one who really was, the whole family feels guilty because she was the target. Maybe that's another reason that they want to accept this and move forward today. Yeah, she was a pre-taped interview. She by the way, Trikisha. I spoke to her a number of times today. Maybe that's, they have other healing to do besides that, and the guilt that must be to go along with this. So I just throw that out to you. I don't know if that's true. And the Kohbergers also issued a statement. They just want the process to bear out. Just not that we care, but
Yeah, it is hard to sympathize with his family. I'm sorry, it just is.
Yeah, right. I agree. I agree.
They are not victims, and do your thing, but I don't care.
Yeah.
So tough day.
Tough day.
A lot going on,
tough day. And we've done the past 2 days. We've done a lot. We wanted to get Mike Easter on because he mentioned in the show that he had some backup that he did when he was out in private practice or something, maybe for this, but he can't reveal anything from the FBI, obviously. But I would just say, knowing and watching him on our show and as an expert that we've had him on, that if he had anything to do with finding these cell phone issues or backing up the agents who were, that those were perfect, right?
Solid. They were solid. Yeah. And so I do believe we're going to get him back on to talk to the degree he can about this. I asked him, when he wanted to know a little more about what we needed, and he begged off for the moment. I said, we'll take, either Michael Easter or baby Michael Easter, whichever one is available. We'll take either one. So I think he's actually in the midst of working on a trial. And Great. So, yeah, I thought this was interesting. I don't think he would mind my sharing this. He's helping pick a jury in a particular case now. So the guy does it all. They're obviously looking for jurors that somehow need to relate to what he does, or a case that revolves around the stuff he does, and they've called him in to help with the consultation. So anyway, we will get him back on.
Yeah, and we should do a little bit when we have Joe Juckelin on, because he's been focusing on genetic genealogy because of his involvement in the Long Island serial killer case under the List case. But obviously that genetic genealogy outplayed here with a Q-tip. I'm never going to look at a Q-tip in the same way.
Hey, my mom used to say, don't put anything in your ear smaller than your elbow. So we didn't have a lot of Q-tips. But here, there's somebody had a question. I saw it float by at some point. Well, how did they connect that up? That's the dad's DNA. Well, we know what it is because of the Golden State Killer case out of California. That was the first case of familial DNA. And what you do is, you folks who love 23andMe and Ancestry.com and all those, I did a bit on this on Law and Crime once, and I read some of the agreements. When you go onto those sites and you pay your $50 or whatever it is, and you register because you want to know if you're 1/16th Filipino or whatever it happens to be you're looking for, you are acquiescing to law enforcement to access your DNA records. Mm-hmm. And when that happens, in a case like this, they go into the database and they find this Q-tip DNA from the dad, and there you go. Then they have something to match it up to and link him to these. So that was the linchpin in this case, as it was in the Golden State Killer case, which was a number of murders that were cold cases. Yeah. So think about it. I'm not saying you should or shouldn't do it. I'm just thinking, know what the hell you're doing.
I just don't want any of my relatives to ever be guilty of a crime.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden,
yeah. So maybe it's more a reflection of It's more a reflection of your family than your personal choices. Like,
I'm Calabrian.
Yeah.
My whole family is from Calabria.
Here
Italy.
we go again.
Never go against the family.
Yes. So yeah,
Oh,
be careful with
Lord.
your signature. It is very powerful.
Yeah, but you see how you see how crime scenes are not just the crime scene. You see how crime scenes are the phones, the tracking, the cars, the DNA. You see that it just doesn't involve the crime scene. But boy, I don't think this is a case you and I are ever going to forget, because he's indelibly ingrained. And when I see evil, I see the Bryan Kohberger picture.
Yep, and it's just, the Bundy, the Jeffrey Warrens that I talked about earlier today. Yeah, it's a common theme that is just creepy and frightening, and we'll see if this guy survives very long once he's in prison. Sentencing on the 23rd.
Okay.
No real choice by the court. It is
Gonna
life
be all
without
day.
possibility of parole.
Yep.
But
All day sentencing.
as
the
people
court
were
said.
concerned about its victim impact statements, they're assuming it's going to take only one day. The court said, let's set it up for the 23rd. If we need another day, we'll spill over. So the court's going to allow whatever time it takes, it's going to take.
Yeah, it's going to start at 8:30 that morning on that's Mountain Time, which is our time at
10:30 that morning.
Okay, at 10:30 that morning. We'll take it all day. We will be there, just as we're going to be at Aiden's hearing on Monday at 2:00 in Canton, and we hopefully will have a couple residents on at our 6:00 show that you won't want to miss, and all. And Aiden's going to have, by the way, because we're not going to be talking live to our viewers before that, Alan Jackson's going to make a short appearance on Aiden Carney's show, 9:00 on Saturday night. Aiden says there's something he wants to say, and I think he wants to squish, put an end to the rumors that somehow there's some fight with Karen Reed and Aiden Carney.
Yeah, I think that's the least Alan Jackson can do for Aiden is to clarify
Alan
that
picked up a new
relationship.
client. Alan picked up a new client.
Yeah, so I didn't grab that video, but yeah, strange case. A college kid accused of killing 4 college students, right?
Right, with the car, running with the car, and Pepperdine, and accelerating. So I think Alan knows a little bit about car systems,
and he gets to work closer to home. That campus, by the way, we went on a tour before my son went to school. He ended up in San Diego. Boo-hoo! But Pepperdine is an unbelievable location and campus. It's on the cliff above Malibu. It's all those stereotypical Southern California beautiful things that you hear about. But this is not beautiful. This case is going to be ugly. And they got a good guy. He didn't take much time off.
Sweet New York Amara was incredibly sad. Okay, hold on a second. That passed me by. My friend's sister died on that road because of road rage. Wow.
On which road are we talking about? On PCH?
Is that the Pepperdine Road, the one that the East?
Well, PCH is that the main road that connects all of those coastal communities.
Wow. The L train. My daughter is L1 at Pepperdine. Wow. Yeah, they have a law school. They started like 12 years ago or so.
Sure do, yeah.
Somewhere around there. I've lost all sense of time with the pandemic, because like what would have been, I'd say 5 years ago was now 12 years ago, that type of thing. We do have Joey Kane, another Justice Serve TV membership. Yes, that's great, Joey. You are just amazing. And I'm sure we're going to have a lot more going on here as we go through this. Remember, we also have a lot of just coming up. We're still going to have you talk about a cold case, who killed Stephanie, name I haven't given you yet. I've also been able to look at another case that, let me just see, the Karina Hallmark case in Boston. We're going to be doing Donna Adelson. And a surprise that besides Birchmore, we also have to take a look at the Brian Walsh play case, because there's a number of same players that are in Canton. And a surprise episode, I'm going to actually be taping a yoga lesson in my Justice Serve TV yoga gear, and that's going to be an evergreen, and that will go up within the next week, hopefully.
All right. Is that going to be for everybody, or for members first and then everybody, or what's that going to be?
I don't know. I haven't decided yet. I really want everyone to get healthy and to try things that bring them out of their comfort zone. This brought me out of my comfort zone to try to do this, and it's going to bring me out of my comfort zone to see how bad I am, at this. No, it's not Bikram. My yoga teacher is a true yogi. She learned under the Dalai Lama, who's now 9 years old, who trained the Beatles and who trained Richard Gere and all. So she is She has been doing it for 20 years, and she is really a yogi. I mean, she put me in a state of meditation that I didn't think anybody could ever put me in a state of meditation.
Yeah, I know. I'd like to see that.
I did too, and she did. If only we had a video of that. So we'll try to do that, to try to get members, to try to keep out there and to help, because we're doing a lot of sitting, all of you, all of us, and we want you to be healthy.
Speaking of member perks and a production note, tomorrow we'll have the first Legal Edge episode launched for members. I threw that idea out there last week or weekend. We're going to give it a shot. These are episodes that I've done. They're little 2-minute nuggets of legal things that affect you in your daily life. Not, as I say, it ain't going to get you off a murder rap, but it might help you in a speeding ticket. It might help you, if you're fighting with your landlord. Anyway, these little nuggets, we're going to do them every Friday. We'll launch them to our members because they deserve something, and hopefully it's worth something to them. I have to warn, over the course of time that these were done, my hair and clothing may change quite a bit because they were done over 1,000 episodes over about an 8-year period. So
wow.
Put that in there for what it's worth. But that's programming note. We'll begin that on Friday. We'll launch the first one for members.
All right. So Dizzy says we have to release my yoga video first to members only, and then we'll release it to everybody.
Yeah, not a bad idea.
But of course, what I'm actually pushing is the merch store, because we have the best yoga pants and the best yoga hoodies. I think we may change some of the colors out of the yoga hoodies. We're gonna the one I've been wearing all week that you saw is really popular. The camel one's popular. Some of the others are not so popular, but the yoga pants are like going like crazy. We even get notices that things are out of stock, that people are buying them. So get in there, and if shopping is your therapy, like it is mine, you'll do great at our Justice Served TV store. Anyhow, but before you go, I have to say, could you all hit that subscribe button, that like, that share, the notify? We're approaching 22,000. Who would have thunk that within the space of just like a month and a half, we'd be, or 2 months, we'd be adding, doubling everyone who has found this channel. If you like our rants, my rant, please go share it, because I believe in woman power. I also believe in not being silent when somebody comes at you to try to think they can back you down or back your friends down. And we protect our friends here at Justice Served TV with our words, okay? No action, but with our words. So take a look at the latest rant. Take a look at all that we have. Michael Bryant actually cut all of the episodes from Olivia Lambeau the other day.
From our moments, what do you have? Continuing to trickle out. I think the number one moment's coming up at 8 o'clock. Very controversial. So take a look at that and see if you agree, disagree, have your own version. But there were so many moments. That's all we can agree on. There were so many moments in Karen Reed too. Very tough to distill them down, but what the hell, we gave it a shot.
And I had to tell you one other funny before we go. Okay, so there's a major network. I mean, like major, but I'm not going to say who, because this was sent to me, texted me earlier in private, who was online to get into the Bryan Kohberger case really early, like hours before it started, like 3 hours before it started, and next to a mother and a daughter in line who are true crime aficionados and watch YouTube channels, okay? But it turns out it's a specific YouTube channel that they're loving. He asked them, well, what YouTube channel do you watch? And they took their phone, they said, and they showed it, and guess what channel it was, Michael Bryant?
Justice Served TV?
Yes! Yes. We're the channel.
That's nice. Thanks, cousin. Oh.
No, it's not anyone we know. So please hit that subscribe, like, share button and notify. And obviously, we're going far because of you who watch us.
Thanks for joining us here on the Home Shopping Network. Make sure you go check out our merch. Okay, I'm Michael Bryant. See you next time. Try to do the right thing.
We have a show tomorrow, 6 o'clock premiering. And then after that, everyone enjoy the 4th of July and happy Independence Day.
Safe and sane.
Safe and